Hello everyone, in this video we will be doing some addition and subtraction with 4-digit numbers. As you can see, I've already written some additions and subtractions for you to do. So I want you to try and do these in your notebook and then come back and see if you did them correctly. So pause the video and try on your own in 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you're back, that means that you solved them, so let's see if you did them correctly. We first have 4,183 plus 1,599. So I start off by saying 3 and 9. I start off from the right. 3 and 9 makes 12. So I write 2, carry 1. 8 and 9 makes 17, and 1 that I carried over makes 18. Write 8, carry 1. 1 and 5 makes 6, and another one that I carried over makes 7. 4 and 1 makes 5. So my result is 5,782. Next step. 2,507 plus 493. You can see here that this is a 3-digit number. So I have to be careful when placing these, because if I placed it more to the left, that would have been wrong. The ones need to be beneath the ones, the tens beneath the tens, and the hundreds beneath the hundreds. So if you want to think about it like this, think that they all have to be stacked against the wall to the right. All the numbers need to be pushed there. So I have 7 and 3 makes 10. Right, 0, carry 1. 0 and 9 makes 9, and 1 that I carried over makes 10 again. 5 and 4 makes 9, and 1 that I carry over makes 10 again. Right, 0, carry 1. 2 and 1 that I carried over makes 3. So my result is 3,000. Here I've put the 3-digit number on top, which is not wrong. In addition, I can do that. In addition, the order of the numbers doesn't really matter. And subtraction is where it matters. So here I've just written the first number on top. It doesn't make a difference. So I say 7 and 3 makes 10. Write 0, carry 1. 7 and 0 makes 7, and 1 that I carry over makes 8. 8 and 9 makes 17. Write 7, carry 1. 1 and 1 makes 2. So my result is 2,780. Let's move on to the subtractions. 3 take away 3 makes 0. 9 take away 9 also makes 0. 2 take away 8. Now here is where most mistakes are made, because we see this 2 take away 8 and we think, oh, well, this doesn't work really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 8 take away 2. So we read it backwards, which is wrong. I have to start reading from the top. Always. This doesn't say 8 take away 2. This says 2 take away 8. And if I can't do 2 take away 8, we've explained that we borrow 1, lend it to the 2 so it becomes a 12, take away 8 makes 4. If you did it the other way around, you did 8 take away 2, this would have been a 6. So you would have gotten it wrong. So always remember when we're doing subtraction to start reading from the top. Always. Also remember to return what you borrow. Otherwise, you will also get a wrong result. So here I return this to the 7. I get 8, take away 8, which makes 0. Meaning my result is 400, so I don't even have to write this 0. Next up, we have 4,856, take away 859. I start by saying 6 take away 9. I can't do 6 take away 9, so I borrow. 16 take away 9 makes 7. I return this here. The 5 becomes a 6. 5 take away 6 I can't do. So we say 15 take away 6 makes 9. I return this here. It becomes a 9. 8 take away 9. I can't do that, so again I borrow. 18 take away 9 makes 9. I return this here beneath the 4 where there's a 0 that I can't see. So I say 4 take away 1. 4 take away 1 makes 3. And I put the dot here. So my result is 3,997. Great. Lastly, I have 7,000 take away 156. I start by saying 0 take away 6. Can't do 0 take away 6. So I borrow and the 0 becomes a 10. Take away 6 makes 4. I return this here. The 5 becomes a 6. I borrow again. 10 take away 6 makes 4 again. I return this here. The 1 becomes a 2. I borrow again because I can't do 0 take away 2. I say 10 take away 2 makes 8. I return this here. So I say 7 take away 1 makes 6. Okay, great. So now I have 6,844. We did all that. Now let's see if we can do something a little more challenging. Let's take away all that. Here I've written 2 additions and 2 subtractions, but I already have the results. I just need to fill in the gaps to make them true. So I have 3,488 plus this number that's missing half of it, and it gives me a result of 6,733. This is something a little more challenging, so let's see how we're going to go about this. We're going to solve these together. If you want to try and solve them on your own, just pause the video. Again, the same thing as before, but they are a little more tricky. So let's try and do them together. So, first of all, we have here 8 and 5 does not make 3, obviously. It does make 13, which means that I've written 3 here and I've carried 1. So, let's move on to our first gap. Here we have 8. We add something, and we add the one that we carried over as well, and it makes 3, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it, because I already have 8, and I add something so it becomes more, but then I get 3 in the end. How is that possible? It's the same thing as this here. I had 8, I added 5, I didn't get 3, I got 13. I just wrote 3, and I carried 1. So again, this, whatever I add, all of these together, they need to make not 3, but 13. Because I'm going to write 3, but I'm going to carry over 1. So I need to think 1 and 8 and what makes 13? So first we have 1 and 8. 1 and 8 makes 9. So what do I have to add to 9 to get 13? I have to add 4 to 9 to get 13. So I have 13 here, and I carried 1. I wrote 3, I carry 1. 4 and 2 makes 6, and 1 that I carried over makes 7. So here you can see that, yeah, it did have to be 13 in order for this to work. We must have carried 1 over, because if we hadn't, then this wouldn't have worked. 4 and 2 makes 6, not 7, like it is here. There had to be something carried over. So I'm not carrying anything over here, so now I just have to think 3 and what makes 6? Well, 3 and 3 makes 6. So here the gap would be 3. Let's move on to the next one. This one's missing more numbers, so this is a little more difficult. As we move on, they're going to be becoming more difficult. Okay, so I have a number here, and I add 9 to it, and it becomes 4, which again doesn't really make sense. because no matter what number this is, if I'm adding 9 to it, it should be at least more than 9, right? But it becomes 4. Or it becomes 14. And I've just written 4 and carried 1 over. Okay, so let's go with that case. If it is 14, then what and 9 makes 14? 5 and 9 makes 14. So I wrote 4, carried 1. Then I say 1 and 3 plus something else, and it makes 2. Again, doesn't really make sense because 1 and 3 makes 4. And if I'm adding something to make it more, then it should be at least more than 4, but it becomes 2. Or it becomes 12, and I've written 1 and carried another 1 over. Again. So now let's think. 1 and 3, 4, plus what makes 12? 4 and 8 makes 12. Great. Next up, I have 1 and something makes 7. Sorry, 1 and something and 7 makes 9. Okay, 1 and 7 makes 8. And what makes 9? Now I don't have to do what I did before and make this 13, make this into 19, but it necessarily has to be, because if you think about it, 1 and 7, 8, and something can make, it doesn't have to be 19 necessarily. You have to think, is it possible? Can I do it? Yes. Well, if 1 and 7 becomes 8, I can add 1 to it, and it will become 9. And now if you look at this, 1 and 1 makes 2, and 7 makes 9. Great. Let's move on. I didn't carry anything over, so now I have to think 2 and what makes 6? 2 and 4 makes 6. Next up, we have the subtractions. And here is where it becomes really difficult. So let's do these together. I have 3. I subtract something from 3, and I get 8. This doesn't make sense either, because if I have, imagine you have 3 pencils, okay? And I take some from you. I'm not telling you how many, but I take some from you. And suddenly you're left with 8? How? You had 3 in the beginning. That's not possible. If I took some away from you, then you should have fewer than 3, but you end up with 8. 8 is more than 3. Unless you had 13, meaning that I borrowed. Okay, so if I borrowed and this was 13, how many would I have to take away from you to leave you with 8? I would have to take away 5 from you to leave you with 8. And if you look at this, like this 5 was already there. If you wanted to do 3 take away 5, you would have to borrow, because you can't do 3 take away 5. So you'd have to do 13 take away 5 makes 8. Now, we have to return this here, meaning that whatever number is here, whatever number should be here, we should put 1 less. So let's explain this. I have 5. I take something away, and it becomes 2. What do I have to take away from 5 to make it 2? I have to take away 3. So should I write 3 here? No, because if I did write 3 there, then upon returning this here, this would become a 4. And I'd say 5 take away 4, which would make 1, not 2. So I have to put 1 less here because I'm returning this. Instead of 3, I have to put in 2. And now it works because I return this, becomes 3, and I say 5 take away 3 makes 2. Okay, let's move on. I have a number, and I subtract 8 from it, and it becomes 9. What number would I subtract 8 from to get 9? Well, if you think about the first two numbers up until 20 and think about which numbers you can subtract 8 from, what you would find is that you would have to subtract 8 from 17 to get 9. So do I write 17 here? No, because this would not work. And because it's implied that in each line you can only put one digit. You can't put two numbers there. What you could do is put 7 here and think, oh, I borrowed to turn this 7 into 17. And then I did 17 take away 8 makes 9. So again, I'm returning a number here. So I have to think that whatever this number should be, if I wasn't returning something, it needs to be one less because I am returning 1. So think about this. Let's say 5 take away what makes 1? 5 take away 4 makes 1. So I'm not going to put in 4 here because if I did, when I return this, it would be 5, and 5 take away 5 would make 0, not 1. So I'm going to put one less. I'm going to put in 3. And now when I return this here, the 3 becomes a 4, and I say 5 take away 4 makes 1. Perfect. Let's move on to the next one. And just now I noticed that this might be a little confusing. You might think that, oh, this is a number that you have to fill in. No, this is just, there's a 0 here. This number on the bottom is a 3-digit number. You can look at it like this. See, there's an extra line here. That means there's a gap that should be filled. There's no line here, meaning that this is just empty. This is a 0. Okay, let's start. I have a number up here, and I subtract 3 from it, and I get 6. What number do I subtract 3 from and get 6? 9. Okay, so we're starting off nice with no borrowing, because 9 take away 3 makes 6. Great, I didn't borrow anything. Let's move on. I have 0, and I take away one number, something, I don't know what. I get 4, which, again, does not make sense, because if you think about it, let's say you have 0 pencils, you have no pencils at all, and I somehow take some away from you, and you're left with 4. How, though? Because you didn't have any to begin with. You can't have 4 after I took some away from you, unless you had 10. If you had 10 and I took some away from you, you could be left with 4. So it's here, we've borrowed to turn this 0 into a 10. And I say 10 take away what makes 4? 10 take away 6 makes 4. Let's see, we're returning this here. So this 8 becomes a 9. And now we say some number, take away 9, not 8, careful, makes 9. What number do I take away 9 from and get 9? Well, that would be 18. But, again, like before here, I'm not going to write 18 here. I'm going to write just 8. And that I borrowed. So I have an 8 here. And I borrowed, which means I need to return this here. Here, there's nothing here, so that's a 0. Okay, great. So I have a number, and I take away, well, not 0 anymore because I just returned something to it. I take away 1 from it, and I get a 3. What number is here? Here, sorry. If I take away 1 from 4, I'm going to get 3. So here there needs to be a 4. Okay, so those were some extra difficult problems just to get our brain running a little bit, just to make us think like a little puzzle. So that'll be all for today. On Friday, we'll be solving the worksheets together as well. So see you on Friday.